What do you think of when you hear the word neuroplasticity? There's a lot of scientific controversy over the term, with so many definitions and terms that fit under its category. If you break down the word, it makes sense. Neuro means the brain and plasticity means to change or mold, like how you can knead dough to change its shape. So neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to form and reorganize synaptic or brain connections, especially in response to learning experiences or following injury. It's important to understand that neuroplasticity isn't just about forming new connections between brain cells. There are two main ways the brain can change: structural plasticity and functional plasticity. Structural plasticity refers to physical changes in the brain, like building or removing connections between neurons, or even increasing certain brain areas as we learn and grow. Functional plasticity, on the other hand, is when the brain finds new ways to use the connections it already has, rather than creating new ones. This can happen when certain areas of the brain take on new roles, or when existing pathways become more active. Neuroplasticity is happening all the time, even in the smallest moments of your day. Think about this morning. You probably brush your teeth with your usual hand without even thinking about it. But what if you switch to your other hand? It would probably feel really awkward and difficult. That's because your brain hasn't built the strong neural pathways for that movement yet. So let's try an experiment together. I'm going to write out the word neuroplasticity with my dominant hand. Super easy. But now I'm going to switch to my non-dominant hand.
2,000 years later.
This feels so much harder, and as you can see, my writing is a fraction of how neat it was the first time. So what's actually happening here? Let's suppose you had to walk the really long and treacherous 30-kilometer path through a dense forest that your parents claimed they took to get to school back in the day. The very first time you walk, there's no clear path, so you have to push through branches and tall grass, making slow and difficult progress. Now, imagine you walk that same path every day. Over time, the grass gets trampled down, and the route becomes smoother and easier to follow. Eventually, it turns into a well-defined trail, allowing you to move quickly and effortlessly. This is like a skill becoming second nature. Your brain strengthens the connections between neurons, making it easier to recall and perform. Neuroplasticity is your brain constantly building and maintaining these trails, reinforcing the ones you use and letting go of the ones you don't. The more you practice something, the clearer and stronger the path becomes. Now, let's take a deeper look inside the brain. Neuroplasticity occurs at the level of neurons, which are specialized brain cells that communicate with each other through electrical and chemical signals. These neurons don't physically touch, though. Instead, they transmit messages across tiny gaps between them, called synapses, using chemical messengers known as neurotransmitters. Think of it like a mail system. The neuron is the mailman, and the neurotransmitters are the letters being delivered. Every time you practice a skill, whether it's playing piano, riding a bike, juggling, doing calculus, the mailman delivers more letters between the same addresses, or neurons, making the route faster and more efficient. Over time, as these messages are sent repeatedly, the synaptic connections become stronger, ensuring that the information is transmitted more quickly and reliably. This process is known as long-term potentiation, and it's the foundation of learning and memory. However, just as connections can strengthen, they can also weaken through a process called long-term depression. LTD occurs when synaptic activity decreases, leading to weaker connections over time. Interestingly, different regions of the brain seem to compete for resources. If one area is used less, another may take over some of its functions. Ever heard how blind people can hear better, or how deaf people seem to have an incredible sense of sight? It's actually their brain adapting. For example, in people who lose their sight, the brain doesn't just leave the visual cortex sitting there unused. It gets creative. The visual cortex, which normally processes images, starts helping with other sensors instead, like touch and sound. This is why blind individuals can develop an incredible sense of touch for reading Braille, or become more skilled at recognizing sounds around them. Instead of making brand new pathways, the brain repurposes the ones that are already there. An example of a functional brain change in plasticity. Understanding neuroplasticity is so important because it means that our brains are constantly changing. This challenges the outdated idea that intelligence, personality, or our abilities are fixed. For example, people experiencing symptoms with anxiety can potentially rewire their brains through practices like cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, and habit change. This means we may have more control over our mindset and behaviors than we often think. One study looked at this specifically, and they investigated how mindfulness meditation can affect brain structure. Researchers split their main population into two groups. One group participated in an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program, while the other group received no treatment at all. Before and after the program, both groups underwent an MRI brain scan to measure changes in gray matter concentration within their brain. The results showed that the mindfulness group had significant increases in gray matter density in key brain areas, including the hippocampus, which is involved in learning and memory, and the amygdala, which is linked to emotional processing. In contrast, the control group showed no such changes. But what do these changes actually mean for brain function? An increase in gray matter suggests enhanced processing abilities, better emotional regulation, and improved learning capacity. Some studies suggest that mindfulness-based interventions can also help individuals manage stress, anxiety, and even reduce chronic pain. The brain plays a crucial role in injury recovery as well, as it possesses the ability to rewire itself in response to trauma. When an injury occurs, whether to the brain, spinal cord, or any of your muscles, the brain begins to reorganize neural pathways, allowing healthy regions to take over previously handled by damaged areas. However, injury-induced changes don't always happen because of direct damage to the brain itself. Instead, when a muscle or limb is injured, the body part is used less, reducing the amount of neural input that the corresponding brain region receives. This shift in activity can lead to functional reorganization. An injury does not mean that the brain area representing the body part is unhealthy, but it's simply receiving fewer inputs, which may cause other brain areas to take over certain functions. Without proper intervention, though, neuroplasticity can sometimes take an inefficient path, leading to maladaptive plasticity, where the brain strengthens harmful connections, such as in chronic pain, where pain signals persist even after an injury has healed, or an impaired movement, where incorrect neural pathways develop, making recovery more difficult. One promising approach harnessing neuroplasticity for injury recovery is mental rehearsal or motor imagery. Imagine this. Without even moving a muscle, simply visualizing an action can activate the same neural circuits as actually performing it. One study showed that stroke patients who consistently practiced mental rehearsal of their physio exercises saw remarkable improvements in motor function compared to those who didn't. This finding suggests that neuroplasticity can be deliberately guided through therapies like mental rehearsal, offering innovative and non-invasive ways to accelerate healing and restore lost abilities. The key is consistency. Neuroplastic changes happen over time with repeated practice. So overall, neuroplasticity shows that our brains are not fixable but adaptable, allowing us to recover from injuries, improve mental health, and learn new skills. While this ability to rewire our minds is remarkable, it's still not without limitations. Factors like age and genetics can play a role in how effectively the brain can change. The fascinating field of neuroplasticity is also still developing as researchers continue to explore its full potential and boundaries. While we can harness neuroplasticity to shape our personal growth and well-being, more studies are needed to understand the extent to which we can optimize brain function. As science advances, we may unlock even more ways to utilize neuroplasticity for a healthier and more adaptive mind.